So for my topic, I chose to do topic 1. My thesis statement was that gender psyche is the most important underlying factor that influences policy through stereotypical gender roles, media coverage, and public perception. For this, I chose to use the Slaughter article, the Lawless and Fox, and Fridkin and Kinney as well. And then I had 2 news sources. I used the one article we had from Roy in 2014, the India rape case, and then I used another case that was a news article. That one was from In Focus Women in the Media, UN Women, the Beijing Platform for Action, and it was published on January 20th, 2017. Alright, so to start this off, my first paragraph, I chose to focus on the way gender psyche influences the way media narrates the political campaigns. Historically, we've seen that female senators have been accused of talking less about their families in public than their male counterparts. That was from the Fridkin and Kinney. While the media will focus predominantly on the female's subservient traits and communal traits, using that to the female's advantage appearing to be maternal isn't necessarily always a bad thing. A good focus point would be focusing on balancing life and family ties with shrewd tactical articulations of the policies that they can use to their advantage. The media influence also helps spearhead rational development and create systems which the candidate can focus on important matters of society while having to put an image that focuses too much on one particular set of skills. And eventually, if we incorporate policies that allow women to be covered in the media equally as men, we will see that the blending of the communal traits and the agentic traits, that will be well-rounded on both parts for men and women. And this influence system, by implementing these kind of rules, then we're going to be able to see better candidacies. We're going to see better campaigns, more thought-out strategic ways of influencing both communal traits and agentic traits, not just having females focusing on the websites and then having to talk more about the serious issues and trying to be presented in a way that is not only given that they are very, very qualified, but also the fact that they are very competent as well. And that won't have to be an underlying theme to have to prove that. That'll be a given, and everyone who's running will have that respect. And then another focus point I had in here that was focusing on the communal traits again, that men have been known to focus on more serious topics such as business, security, economic policy that change, and then women tend to focus more on healthcare, educational, environmental policies, also from Fridkin and Kinney. And women are perceived in a more positive light. They get less media coverage altogether, but they do receive general positive light. You know, I think that's something that might need to change as well, because we need to be able to see the candidates for what they are. And they have to be good, and they have to be well-balanced, and have to be able to address serious platforms in the media, not just sugarcoating it, per se. So creating a public policy to ensure men and women are created equal. They'll focus on the same questions, same times, focus on the same rivaling platforms. We can ensure that we have a more full debate and create a sense of unity and a sense of equalism. A gender neutrality clause is something I think would be a good solution. Gender neutrality media relations clause. And those who fail to adhere to these policies, like CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox, if they fail to adhere to these policies and don't give people the same time, treatment, and respect they deserve and all these things, they can use communications networks like the FCC and other ones to enforce fines and then grant them restrictions on national debates, media conferences, global addresses, State of the Union's addresses, UN addresses, to ensure that they are in compliance with these equal coverage laws. The other topic I wanted to talk about too was the way the government can work to dismantle the gender psyche curse. Establishing a gender quota, much like we saw in India, we can see more women entering the public light and more women feeling more comfortable to actually present themselves in public. And then this will desensitize people to the concept of having a female leader. Once the initial shock will fade, implementing a clause to ensure men and women are treated fairly by the media, to exposing them, the topics covered, the time allotted, and the oppositions will create the opportunity to deliver a deeper and more rational discussions that will better run the country. With the same time, the simple changes will allow society exposure and depth necessary to target elections to make them more effective. After we see the blending of these communal and agentic traits from both sexes, we will have the children who are raised watching this will blur those lines. And this will also help us with the gender psyche as well, because gender psyche as a whole is very reliant on the concept of masculinized ethos and feminized ethos, for that matter, as well. And if we can blend those lines, we can see children seeing things more rationally, having a better sense of development, making better arguments for themselves, making better, deeper connections, and a greater focus on what's important, like creativity, progression in society, acceptance, and then greater values on rational decision-making, and not just he said, she said, or a sex-based argument. So we also see a big step in closing the gender gap would be getting women to run in the first place. So if the changing the gender psyche can influence tradition, like switching between acting with agentic traits, then we can also see the erosion of a stereotypical nature of the gender psyche and start to develop more competitive campaigns with equal ground, having true equal rights with people seen as individuals rather than just the genders they represent in the pool of candidates. And with these rules in place, it's going to influence individuals, it's going to influence women, it's going to make everything change. The fabric of society is going to have a better implementation of all these philosophies. And historically, we're going to see, much like we saw in the 2016 election and the 2018 election, we're going to see more women represented in Congress, more women represented in the Senate. I believe this year we saw the House of Representatives garner about 26% women this year, which is impeccable compared to about 2% back in 1961. And that was the one I found from the UN source. And then while men are largely dominant in this field, it's time that we change this. We're going to see the erosion of men being the historical classified breadwinner and a higher likelihood of devoting the time to their obligations as well and not giving women